Today we will be presenting about materials characterization using electron microscopy for PHY380. And our member are Najma, Salwa, Ayuni, and myself, Afika. And our member are Najma, Salwa, Ayuni, and myself, Afika.
So this is all the content for our presentation today.
First, introduction to materials, characterization, and electron microscopy. Second, electron microscope technologies and their application. Then, advantage, challenge, and future innovation. And finally, conclusion, which are the insights from electron microscopy in materials characterization, followed by our references.
Let's begin by understanding what materials characterization actually means. It refers to the process of analyzing the structure, composition, and the properties of materials. This is a fundamental step in both scientific research and industrial development. Materials characterization is extremely important in creating new materials, improving existing products, and making sure they are safe and reliable for use. This process is widely applied in many fields, including electronics, aerospace, nanotechnology, and even medical application. Whether it is improving semiconductors or ensuring the safety of an airplane component, materials characterization plays a key role. Let's begin by understanding what. Now let's move on to a powerful tool used in materials characterization, the electron microscope. Unlike a regular light microscope, which uses visible light to observe objects, an electron microscope uses beam of electrons. This allows it to achieve much higher resolution, enabling us to view objects at the nanometer scale. Now let's move on to a powerful tool used in materials characterization, the electron microscope. Unlike a regular light microscope, which uses visible light to observe objects, an electron microscope uses beam of electrons. This allows it to achieve much higher resolution, enabling us to view objects at the nanometer scale. Now let's move on to a powerful tool used in materials characterization, the electron microscope. Unlike a regular With this technology, scientists can observe extremely fine surface details and even internal structures of a material. This is especially useful when analyzing nanomaterials, biological samples, or advanced electronics. Electron microscopy is now considered a standard in many modern research labs, especially in fields like material science, nanotech, and biomedical imaging. With this technology, scientists can observe extremely fine surface details and even internal structures of a material. This is especially useful when analyzing nanomaterials, biological samples, or advanced electronics. Electron microscopy is now considered a standard in many.
So let me move on to the second subtopic, which is electron microscope technologies and their application in material characterization. So what is electron microscope? Electron microscope use beam of electron instead of light to produce highly detailed image. Unlike traditional optical microscope, they allow us to magnify structures up to 1 million times and view features at the nanoscale, making them incredibly useful in research and industry. So, let me move on to the second subtopic, which is electron microscope technologies and their application in material characterization. So, what is electron microscope? Electron microscope use beam of electron. There are two main types of electron microscope. First, the scanning electron microscope or SEM, which scan the surface of a sample and produce three-dimensional light image on its surface. Second, we have the transmission electron microscope or TEM, which pass electron to a very thin sample to reveal its internal structure in fine detail. There are two. Okay, let's look at how SEM and TEM actually work. First up, SEM or scanning electron microscope. Here you take your sample and give it a super thin coating or something conductive like gold. Then an electron beam scans across the surface. That is when the detector catches all those tiny secondary and backscattered electrons. Finally, all those signals are processed into a super detailed 3D-like image on the surface. And then we have TEM, Transmission Electron Microscope. This one is all about very thin slices of the sample, like 50 to 100 nanometer thins. Electron actually pass straight to the sample, and then the lens then focus those transmitted electron onto a detector, so you can see the fine detail inside, sometimes even down to the atomic level. Alright, let's move on into the application. First, we have material science. Electron microscope actually helps scientists look super closely at metals and materials. They can spot tiny cracks or defects that we never see. Otherwise, it's really important for making airplanes, cars, and machines stronger and safer. Second, we have in biology and medicine, electron microscope show us the tiny world of cell, bacteria, and virus. This help researchers understand disease and develop new treatment to improve our health. And third, we have in nanotechnology and electronics. This microscope help check tiny chip and nanostructures. Even the smallest fault can cause problems. So this is the key for making sure our phone, computer, and device work perfectly. And lastly, we have industry and quality inspection. Industry use electron microscope to catch tiny crack and flaw in important parts like engine pieces or computer chip. This way, companies can make sure their products are safe and build it to last. To sum up, electron microscope give us a super detailed view of tiny things. They help materials, electronics, and medicine, making everyday life better for all of us.
Okay, now let me explain about the benefits and challenges of the electron microscope. Electron microscope have many important benefits compared to optical microscope. So, the first benefit is ultra high resolution. This means when we use electron microscope to see a material, we can see a very tiny things, even individual atoms. Because electron microscope use electron instead of the light. So the electron have because the electron have a more shorter wavelength, so they can show more detail about the material. The second one is precision and clarity. With an electron microscope, all the scientists can see more problems inside the material. For example, they can see a crack, surface defect, or the crystal pattern. This is very useful in material science and research. So the last one is electron microscope are used in many advanced industry. For example, they help in making semiconductor for computer, checking battery material, and in developing nanotechnology. So overall, electron microscope are more powerful than optical microscope. They help us understand things at the atomic level and very important in science and research. Even though electron microscope are very powerful and useful, they also come with few important challenges. So, the first challenges is high cost. This microscope can be extremely expensive because sometimes their costing will become with hundreds of thousands or even millions of ringgit. Because of that, not all the lab or school can have electron microscope. So, the second challenge is they need a vacuum to work properly. Electron must be travel a straight line. If they have air inside the microscope, it can blow or scatter the electrons. That's why the whole system needs to be air-free. So, the third challenge is sample preparation. The sample must be very thin and stable. Also, material not be a non-conductive material because we need to be coated with thin layer material such as we use gold or platinum, so that the electron can interact properly. So these challenges mean the electron microscope require a special skill, tool and condition to use them correctly. Okay, now we looking about the electron microscope are evolving with exciting new innovation. So the first we have AI enhanced imaging. AI is artificial intelligence help to clean and analyze electron microscope data, making image more clear and easy to interpret. But if we use AI still work with real physics-based signal, such as contrast and brightness from electron interaction. So the second one is new technologies are enabling to development of smaller and more portable electron microscope. These compact systems are more affordable and easier to use, opening up access more labs and industry. This miniaturization relies on principles of electromagnetism, electron control, and microelectronics, showing how physics continue to push innovation forward.
Now that we have explored the power and future of electron microscope, let's take a step back and look at how these amazing machines are actually used. Because for your information, no matter how advanced the technology is, the result still depends on how we prepare the sample. First, we need to prepare the sample, and this is a very important step. The sample must be completely clean and dry. We usually wash it with chemical like alcohol or acetone, and sometimes use an ultrasonic cleaner to remove the grease or dust. For biological sample, we use chemical like glutaraldehyde to keep the structure intact, and then slowly remove the water using alcohol. And to avoid damage during drying, we use method like freeze drying or critical point drying. Once dry, the sample is placed on a small metal platform, usually with a carbon tape to hold it in place. If the sample doesn't conduct electricity, like plastic or biological tissue, we usually coat with a thin layer of gold or platinum. This helps the microscope get a clear image and stop the sample from getting charged by the electron. After preparation, we move on to the mounting. For SEM, the sample is placed on a metal stalk. For TEM, it's placed on a very thin copper grid. Then, for step 3, vacuuming the chamber, electron microscope don't work in a normal air. So, before we begin, the microscope creates a vacuum inside the chamber. Maybe you guys keep wondering why it's a vacuum. It's vacuum because electrons are tiny and they can scatter or lose direction if they hit air particle. A vacuum keeps the electron beams clean and accurate, giving us a sharper image. Once the sample is in place, we adjust the microscope setting. Some important settings include voltage, spot size, focus, and working distance. Most modern microscopes are controlled by a computer, so we use a mouse or touchscreen to make adjustments. It takes skill and experience. Even small changes can affect the quality of the image. And then finally, we capture the image. The electron beam scan the sample in SEM or pass through it in TEM, and the microscope creates a digital image on the screen. We can adjust like brightness, contrast, and zoom, and even add notes or label. Then we save the image for analysis. Some advanced labs also use software for AI measure tiny structure, find defects, or compare different materials. So, even though electron microscope look futuristic, they still rely on human technique and careful steps. From cleaning the sample, to setting the voltage, to capturing the final image, every part of the process plays a big role in getting accurate and useful results.
Bonus! So here are the fun facts about electron microscope. Electron microscope used in space research. NASA used them to study rocks and meteorite samples to learn more about the materials in space. Bonus! So here are the fun facts about electron microscope. Electron microscope used in space research. NASA used them to study rocks and meteorite samples to learn more about the materials in space. To sum up, electron microscopy has made a big impact in materials characterization. It allows scientists to see very tiny details down to atoms, which help us better understand how materials are built. SEM gives us a clear view of the surface, while DAM let us see deep inside a material. These insights are used in many areas like electronics, medicine, and engineering to make stronger and better products. Even though using this microscope takes skill and care, the knowledge we gain from them is very important for future discoveries. To sum up, electron microscopy has made a big impact.
These are the references we use throughout our presentation on material characterization using the electron microscope. Each reference plays a crucial role in shaping the content, depth, and accuracy of our research. We make sure to gather information from a wide range of reliable sources, including academic journals, corporate websites, online scientific database, and educational institutions. So, we like to acknowledge and thank all these sources for helping our build a strong foundation for our presentation. If you are interested in learning more, we highly recommend exploring some of these references further, as they offer a wealth of knowledge beyond what we could cover in just a few slides.
Before we end our presentation, thank you to Dr. Azianti for your guidance and support in helping us to complete this presentation. We really appreciate your teaching and the knowledge you share with us. Bye!